I come from an accounting background, went through the CA firms, been a number cruncher all my life, but then I realized that number crunching is not for me because you're always looking in the rearview mirror in terms of what's happened. And I got exposed while I was in the defense industry to business development and marketing, and I realized that that's where the money is, that's where the real business is. And I want to have my finger on the pulse and be part of where a company is going and be able to steer the ship where possible. And that's how I've ended up in business development with Emcom Wireless. And we play in the public sector, in the mining, defense and aerospace. We play in policing, a whole host of industries where mission critical communications is key.
Digital radio is a new buzzword. What are the benefits to companies, energy-wise, safety-wise, health and safety-wise, to digital radio, particularly in the logistics sector?
Look, if you look at radio and where it's moving to, we are where cell phone was in 2009, 2010, when smartphones came in. Now, digital now means that all this is IP-based. It can be managed via the cloud. It can integrate into switchboards. It can talk to other devices, the whole Internet of Things. It now means if you're looking at a mine, for example, you can bridge your underground, your overground communications, link up a couple of mines together. If you look at transportation, you can track your vehicles real time. You can record conversations. It's crystal clear quality, and it's best of the breed technology.
Can you put a dollar and cent saving that the clients can enjoy by really embracing technology?
Look, we're seeing savings of up to 30%, between 30 and 40% in a lot of the implementations that we've done. If you look at, say, utilities as an example, now with smart grids coming in, where everybody's talking about this GSM smart meters, you can have metering over radio. It now means you can monitor and manage your entire grid, your entire fleet in real time. Look at municipalities as an example. Instead of subscribing to tracking services where you're paying for each message and each communication and each movement of data across the network, with radio, it's yours, you own it, you don't pay a cent for any communication. So you're saving on that cost alone. And you can better manage, you can geofence your vehicles, your resources, and know where people are at any given time. You can manage your fuel bill, and you can map your resources to incidents, for example, where you have a fire. You know from a digital system that's mapped to your maps on Google Maps where your respondents are, you know where your police are, and you can deploy the guys who are first and closest to the scene, which saves your running costs and turns around your incident resolution very quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what sort of what will the digital radio 20 years time look like if you get your crystal ball out? Or what's the future going to be?
Everybody's talking the two big terms: convergence and digitalization, as well as big data. Okay. Now, radio right now is still very much of a commodity, but we're moving slowly into the software side, where we are moving into the software-defined radio, where the user will dictate how he uses the radio. So applications and data are probably the next big thing. With digitalization and the digital radio, what it means is companies and organizations now have access to real-time, massive amounts of data. And what you then do with that data is what's going to determine the application for the radio. In 10 years' time, all radios will basically have the same capabilities. The only difference will be the names of the brands. They all comply to the same European standards. So from a features point of view, you're looking at the very same thing. It's now your applications that I think is the next big thing. And that's a big gap in the market and a big opportunity for us as SA, as we embrace the technology to use our capability to deploy and develop applications that will better use the data to give more real-time information that can save and give us a quick turnaround in decision making. Think of crime fighting, for example. If the police commissioner had on an iPad an application that told in real time where the latest hijackings were, how many there were, and how many officers were responding to that, and how long it was taking to respond to incidents, and how many of these lead to convictions and all that, it makes it easier to deploy resources and be more preventative in crime fighting, as an example, as opposed to being reactive, which we currently have.
And so how far away are we from that being a reality?
I reckon we're starting to talk about it. The big issue at the moment is skills in the industry. We don't have enough youngsters coming into the main pipeline with an interest and understanding of radio. The beauty of it is we are at the cutting edge of this development in South Africa. We are where everybody else in the world is, and we are slowly trying to ignite young skill to get into the industry. We are talking to varsities. We are setting up training institutions in conjunction with state-owned entities like Emcom, Translate and the SAPS. And within the next 3 to 5 years, we will see a lot of custom development on digital platforms, on the radio space, mission critical, talking to the police and to the defense, being developed and used.
And when you look at the quality of graduates come from universities, is the level of education up to date with what is expected in the business world?
Not at all. There's a big gap. We closed down a lot of technicons in the late 90s, and that has seen a disappearance of skill in the industry. Okay? A lot of your engineering students coming out of varsity know the basics of RF technology, and then they seem to migrate towards your cell phone service providers, because those are the big employers in the industry, and everybody still sees cell phone as the next big thing. But cell phone is more of a consumer product, it's not a commercial product. We are slowly reigniting and working with state-owned entities to reignite the technicons and get the skill there. The interest is definitely there, we've seen it with the young engineering students. As we expose them to the technology, they get excited and they see that this is a niche market that doesn't need to die, that can be resuscitated, and the few people who get into it now will definitely reap the rewards because the demand is there.
So you're saying it's becoming a more sexy field to get into then?
Very much so. It's extremely exciting. There is a lot of knowledge that's out there that can be tapped from the grey heads that are about to retire from the industry, and that already presents a lot of partnership opportunities in terms of moving the technology forward.
Absolutely, and your ambitions, you're still a few more years left in the game. You must have, where do you see yourself in 5-10 years time?
I've got lots of years left in the game. I have green ears in the game. I understand the technology, I love technology. I believe technology is an enabler. My role I see in more of educating and empowering the end user. There's a lot of buzzwords in the industry. The technology is still very new. Everybody's talking digital, but no one really understands what it is. There are lots of options. If you look at digital radio, for example, there's Tetra that everybody knows about because it's developed in Europe and works very well there. GMR has come in now, which is digital mobile radio, which plugs the gaps that Tetra had and is best suited for Africa. There's other proprietary products that are available in the market by guys like Motorola and Kenwood. There's a lot of products that are available in there, but the gap from a user point of view is what works best for who. A lot of users are not fully aware of the differences in the technology and the advantages of each versus the other. And my role, I find, increasingly is being called upon in the industry to empower youngsters, to educate them and to help them in their decision-making process as they embrace the new technology, to find something that will work for them. And I work with people and I give them the guarantee that what I recommend will definitely not get them fired and will help them save costs and not lose money.
Energy is the big buzzword. So where do you see the key savings that your technology can provide?
Energy is a big buzzword at the moment. Guys are talking smart grids. It's all about everything talking to each other. If we look at our current crisis with power in the country, we've got generation of electricity, we've got distribution, and we've got the end user, that's the consumer. What we're doing is bridging all those using technology platforms where before you actually have to switch off power, you know, and you can predict where your high peak is going to be, where your consumption levels are going to increase, and you can smartly taper down the energy and redistribute it using technology. And technology will provide the information that's needed to make key decisions as to which lights stay on and which ones stay off. And you can proactively warn users in real time to start slowing down their energy consumption to prevent blackouts in the future.
And solar for this sort of technology? Is this small solar, like individualized per appliance, or is that going to be a reality at all?
You know, the beauty of Africa, South Africa and the rest of Africa, is that we have an abundance of solar energy. Okay, at the moment it's very difficult and expensive to deploy because the user base is still very small. It's slowly being adopted by utilities, but as we see more volume of solar and wind farms being taken up, we will see the cost come down. And with the cost coming down, it's a platform and an opportunity to get a lot more of it out there in the field. Now that will need to be integrated into the current grids, and that's the next big thing. Now integrating it into the current generation system will be key in managing the ultimate resource that's available to distribute.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you talk about Africa expansions. What's the coverage like as you go into Africa?
Africa is thirsty. Africa is hungry for technology. Africa has been left as a dark continent. Africa has long been perceived as a dark continent, which has used stone ages and legacy systems to operate. If you look at the world economy right now, China is probably at the lowest. America is not really out of the radar at the moment. Africa is the one area that's given the greatest return on any investment. And that gives great opportunity to modernize and improve efficiencies, and technology as an enabler is well positioned to do that. So we're seeing a big uptake in technology. We're seeing huge inquiries coming from Africa, and we're well positioned through the skill that we've nurtured within Emcom over the last 43 years to well support Africa by giving them the options and educating them and letting them see where they can get more efficiencies using technology and therefore give even better return on investment. People see radios as more of walkie-talkies that are used by security guards. One of our fun roles, we enjoy what we do, and we try and adapt our technology into every application. Now the EFC Fighting Championships uses our technology to communicate. Now you can imagine, you have a very high adrenaline event going on in there. You need to have medical resources on standby, you need to have security on standby, you also have the whole logistics and event management that needs to communicate. You need the close protectors for the fighters in there. So radio has a very key role in that. You can group guys into different channels, and through one control center you can manage and monitor all communications and ensure that the events take place in a very safe and user-friendly environment where any incidents can be dealt with and managed relatively quickly. So that's technology as well in action. We sponsor the Sharks as well, the rugby team. Our technology is used by the commentators to talk to the guys on the side of the fields and coordinate security within the events. That's also very exciting. We're also a key sponsor to the Bloodhound project, where they're trying to break the land speed record and set a new one of 1,000 miles an hour. Now we've got the first trials happening in September this year, where the plan is to set to match the current land record of 600 miles an hour, and then a year from then there will be a rerun after modifications to the vehicle to then look at breaking the 1,000 and setting the 1,000 mile an hour speed record. Now our radio is directly connected to the driver of that vehicle. You cannot operate on a cell phone at those speeds, and our radio provides that crystal clear, mission critical link between the driver and the control room. So should anything happen at any given time, the driver has full access to the control room. You can coordinate operations with the helicopter, with the fire, with the police, should anything happen, for his safety and also for collecting data right through the run.
Is this taking place in the Northern Cape on a salt pan, I presume?
That's taking place in the Northern Cape on a salt pan. It's called Huckskin Pan.
Wouldn't mind checking that out.
Oh, it's amazing. It's awesome stuff. We've had the first dry run that we did in November last year, and our system worked perfectly well. We're able to get full coverage across the whole 21 kilometers of the track at a combined speed of about 600 k's an hour with no glitches.
So you got another 400. You guys find another 400 k's.
We're very confident it can be done. It can be done.
Actually, it's so surprising. the different applications that the technology can be used in. But if you look at a macro scale, how could this technology be used to run the country better?
Look, at the moment we have a huge opportunity to integrate current technology that we have at municipal level. The municipalities is an area that's very close to my heart. We have the old technology, the analog systems that were deployed back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, which unfortunately has not been maintained well and has not been kept well because of the lack of skills and the lack of knowledge and the lack of engineering capability in the country. Okay. What we can do is better integrate the technology that we have and optimize what we currently have at the municipal level to ensure that there is better command and control for disaster management and be a lot more proactive. We can monitor dam levels so that we know what the level of our water situation is like at any given time and not wait until people turn taps and there's no water to know that there's a crisis. You have a lot of departments at municipal level. You have a water department, you have waste collection, you have the policing departments, you have administration. All those often run on independent communication systems that don't talk to each other.
I must have just got one of your messages.
Well, that's our technology in action. For the guys to respond to that, it's communication and it's all mission critical. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, the opportunity for digital technology in municipalities is in that you can integrate all your different departments into one command and control center. In the event of an accident, for example, your roads department can talk to the police, they can talk to the fire department, and on one platform you can manage an incident, you can coordinate, you can record, and after the fact, replay and learn from such incidents through real-time data that's available from digital platforms. At the moment, that coordination is not there. It takes twice as long to coordinate incidents and to respond, and that's loss of time, that's loss of life, and that's more costly deployment of resources.
If you look at the Cape Town fires, how could your technology have helped?
With the Cape Town fires, we had a number of responding fire centers coordinating and trying to put out the fires. You had the helicopters up in the air, and you had the council as well trying to relay information in terms of roads, road closures, and the general safety of people. So you've got a number of departments, from health and safety to fire to ambulance and all that. Now, with one central command and control center, firstly you can track all your firefighters and ensure all the guys are safe. Now, our radios now come with orientation sensors and GPS chips in them. In the event that a firefighter is knocked down and is unconscious, you set little reminders and little alerts on the radio where the radio beeps if the orientation sensors detect that the radio hasn't moved, say, in 30 seconds. So you can speedily coordinate and come to the rescue of your firefighters. So safety of your personnel, and where you're doing evacuations as well, and you've got ambulances moving in and out, you know exactly where those ambulances are. You can deploy them much quicker. You can coordinate with the fire crew. You can integrate CCTV into the radio platform and be able to guide and direct not only your fire crew but also your helicopters where there's a lot of smoke and clouds.
How far away are we from government taking that on board?
You know what, we're talking to government. We're already dealing with government at various platforms. At user levels, the appreciation for technology is there. The guys realize how they can get value out of integrating and embracing digital technology. What we are now doing is talking to the decision makers and the stakeholders so that the entire budgeting process is coordinated and guys start talking as one. At the moment, the major challenge is if you go into any municipality, there's a very segmented approach to budgeting and resources, in that your fire department may have 100,000 budget allocated to radio. Your disaster management may have another 50,000. Your traffic police may have 200,000. If those resources are pulled together, they can build one network that services all of them.
It's much faster. And
It's
cheaper.
much faster, it's much cheaper, it's easier to maintain, and they share the same infrastructure instead of duplicating resources. So that appreciation is there at user level, and we need to get to the decision makers. We feel the guys are listening, they're willing to work with us, but unfortunately the wheels of government turn slowly, and we're taking it one district and one province at a time, and as we get implementations off the ground, this will take off and snowball right across the country. We're not very far away. We reckon in the next 3 to 5 years we'll have coordinated systems that talk to each other.
We've also got a shipping bag. I'm sure the digital radio is big in the maritime sector, especially with piracy.
That's a big opportunity as well. Now you can imagine all the commercial ships as well as your little fishing vessels that go out to sea in bad weather and all that. And now coordinating an entire shipping yard from tracking containers to tracking your ships and the whole anti-piracy is key. So our technology is used in there. And the nice thing with digital is it interfaces very well with analog. You can interface it with satellite communications. So even when you're offshore, where you do not have coverage from your repeaters that are onshore, you can integrate the technology to satellite and have seamless communications between your ship and your shore right across the world.
How far are we from self-drive vehicles being a reality?
The trials are there. We are talking of your haulage trucks piloting that technology in Europe at the moment. We've seen some approval in some states overseas for self-drive vehicles to go live. I think it's a question of time for Africa to embrace that technology. We need the backup systems that support that, and with LTE coming on board where you have high-speed data over cell phone networks, Andy Casa legislating that band of frequency, it shows that we are moving in the right direction. We're not very far, and by the time the rest of the world has made their errors, we'll be in time to pick up from that and adopt the technology much quicker.
So in some ways it's almost better to be 5-10 years behind the rest of the world, because you don't have to make all the mistakes that the rest of the world makes.
Exactly, we can pick up from their mistakes and not be the guinea pigs all the time, and pick up the technology once it's mature, which will make it very quick to deploy.
And the big word is truck tests and roadworthiness. How's your technology going to help in that regard?
In terms of truck
accidents and roadworthy vehicles.
Firstly, from a response point of view, in terms of responding to those incidents, it's reactive, we know, but we have quicker turnaround times to that. But in terms of proactive control as well, now with on-time and real-time tracking of your driver and your vehicle, you can pick up any deviations in speed, for example, where your driver's falling asleep, deviations in terms of routes. You can integrate now with Google Maps, where you can pick up your traffic conditions and divert your long distance haulage trucks to where there's least traffic, so that you avoid incidents where you're exposing your big cargo trucks and your hazardous trucks to high traffic volumes. So your management of your fleet and your management of your routes is a lot more intelligent with the technology that we have.